Hello and welcome to today's video. In this video, I try to find out if it is good to install a upgraded valve as well as an upgraded trigger into your EMEK or EMF100. Stay tuned. So why would you even upgrade the FL3-way valve or to the FL3-way valve and to a different trigger? The thing is, the stock valve and trigger for the EMEK and for the EMF100, they work perfectly. They are reliable, they get the job done. But in comparison to other markers, like for example, the mechanical shocker markers or lux markers, the trigger is a little bit mushy, it has a longer throw, and I think it's not as good from a mechanical standpoint in that comparison. So there are upgrade parts. Like for example, Planet Eclipse makes the FL3-way valve. There's also an option from Deadly Wind that I don't have here, sadly. And there are also a lot of upgrade triggers. This right here is the standard trigger in black, but I have a comparison marker. So this is my EMF100, and there I have the Inception Design's Fang trigger, and also I have the three-way valve installed, so we can make a direct comparison from stock trigger, stock valve, to upgraded trigger and upgraded valve. Okay, starting with the stock trigger and stock valve. How does it feel without any air? What's the trigger feel? So you can see you have quite some travel, and it's also, well, it's not heavy, but it's quite springy. Yeah, that is basically the feel without any air in it. And for the comparison, the upgraded trigger as well the upgraded valve. To be honest, without any air, you basically only feel the trigger difference. So the valve, it's not getting activated, so you don't feel if it is any lighter, because also if you can see right here, the trigger does not touch the valve at all. So that's basically just a feeling of the trigger alone. So for the Inception Design triggers, they come with a different spring. It's a lighter spring, so it is quite the light trigger pull. It's also not this springy. Okay, it bounces back, of course, but it's not that springy, and it's not that, I don't know, rubber kind of feeling that the stock trigger has. Also, if you can see, it's quite the short throw or short pull. Comparison, let's get the stock one here. Get a close-up. Yeah, that's quite the difference. And don't just take my word for it. We'll try to measure it and see how much longer or shorter the throw is with the upgrade parts. So let's measure the stock trigger first. That is, well, right about the start of the trigger pull, right at the 0. And if we move it all the way back, well, it's not quite 1 centimeter. It's about, I would say 8 millimeters. Yeah, it's 8 millimeters of pull for the stock trigger. Now for the upgrade trigger. Okay, we're right at 0, I would say. Let's pull the trigger. And, well, it's way shorter. I would say 3 millimeter, maybe 4. No, it's 3 millimeters. So a decrease of over 50%. Let's see how the trigger pull feels. Okay, so as you can see, or maybe I bring it in closer, there's not a lot happening in the first few millimeters. Like it's even more than halfway for the trigger pull. You can see nothing happens. And in the last third, the marker shoots. And for the reset, it's also the last third of the reset where the pin or the valve goes back. So it's quite a long pull without anything happening. Then you feel the resistance of the valve growing. And for the reset, there's also nothing, nothing, nothing. And then we have the reset. So now the upgraded parts, or the marker with the upgraded parts. Let's see how the trigger feels. Okay, so there's also some travel where nothing happens, but as we've seen before, 8 millimeters versus 3 millimeters, so there's still not a lot of travel where nothing happens. It's also in the last third, I would say, of the trigger pull, like 1 millimeter. And then, well, it's right at the end. The reset is really right at the end of the trigger pull. But you don't feel the valve as much. You don't feel like there's an additional, I don't know, pressure building up right to the point where the marker fires. It's even more like a given away. So the weight is at the start of the trigger pull, and then it kind of breaks away and the marker shoots. So there's this part, or like these few millimeters at the start, there's the heavy point of shooting or pulling the trigger, and then it kind of like it breaks away and wants to reset with a bigger force than pulling the trigger before. So it kind of helps shooting because you don't have to fight any additional resistance in the trigger pull, and it comes back very quick and with more force, I would say. Now for the rate of fire test. I know this is quite the subjective test. Maybe I pull faster this kind of trigger because I'm used to it. Maybe I think that this is better, so I put in more effort. But I try to be as objective as possible. And I try to shoot around, I don't know, 5 shots, maybe 10. And then we test against the stock kind of setup. So I bring the marker in a, kind of natural position for me. And let's see how fast I can shoot with it. Okay, there you have it. Okay, and now for the stock setup with the tank installed, let's shoot, I don't know, 5 to 10 shots. For the final verdict. As I review my footage, I think that I shot more evenly with this kind of trigger. So maybe if you want to make a even line of paintballs down the field, maybe the stock trigger and valve is better. But as for speed and rate of fire, I would say that I was quite a lot quicker with the upgraded setup, because there were also, like, I don't know, I wouldn't say it was a short stroke because it was a successful firing cycle, but there were a few shots that were basically immediately after each other, and so this was quite a lot faster. As for the feeling, I would say that I would also prefer the upgraded setup because the stock trigger is kind of heavy, or it's not heavy, but after playing a lot and after having to pull the trigger quite a lot, you might be more fatigued with the stock setup as for the really, really light upgraded setup.